Hello, everybody, and welcome into a brand new edition of the Pack a Day podcast here on YouTube. My name is Andy Herman. Today, I'm going to try and tackle, maybe for the last time, or at least for the foreseeable future, this potential Aaron Rodgers situation, and personally, what I would do if this situation, if I was tasked with trying to solve this puzzle, right? And let me start with a couple things. First of all, I get everyone to some degree has Aaron Rodgers overload at this point. You're probably not super pumped about talking more about Aaron Rodgers. And number two, this topic is insanely divisive. And it is just a powder keg that as soon as somebody mentions Aaron Rodgers, it's an explosion waiting to happen because everyone has very, very strong opinions on the topic. Again, it's very divisive. People are on very different sides of the fence. It's almost like a political discussion at this point, right? It's almost reached that level of divisiveness where there's people on both sides and it's tough to compromise or to, come to some sort of equal ground on the topic. So today, I wanted to do my best to try to tackle this in a little bit of a different way. And the overarching theme here is what I would try to do if I were in this situation. But more importantly, I want to look at this and just zoom out a little bit at the different scenarios that are at play here. Because frankly and truthfully, I know we all have strong opinions on it, but I have no idea what's truly going on. You have no idea what's truly going on. Most of the people in the media that are reporting on these stories are hearing snippets of what's going on, but nobody has the full piece of the puzzle, the full puzzle altogether. We're getting bits and pieces here and there. We're getting reports from one side. We're getting reports from the other side. We're getting what did Adam Schefter say? An accumulation of information, whatever the case it was. We've gotten a strong accumulation of information at this point, but I can guarantee you that is still a piece of the puzzle, and we frankly don't know which of those pieces that we do have are full truths, are part truths, or are part of a larger problem, or just a symptom of the cause. Like, we simply don't know the full picture. So if you are full pro Rodgers at this point and you think that the Packers have screwed this up royally, you're probably pointing to the Jordan Love selection, what we believe is the lack of communication, maybe some of the Jake Kumaro stuff, maybe just not giving Aaron Rodgers more overall say in the organization. And some of those things are undoubtedly true, right? But we don't know the full picture. We don't know how Aaron Rodgers has been handling those situations. From all accounts, it sounds like the Packers have a very open door policy. Has Aaron Rodgers himself gone, used that and gone and made requests and suggestions to the team? It sounds like Brian Gutekunst, when he was in his press conference, said that, a relationship with Aaron Rodgers to help make, some of these big decisions would not be anything unique or new. So we simply don't know what that level of communication was and how open Green Bay was in that scenario. And it's tough to say. For those who are on the opposite side that are full, carry the G. This is the team first. I don't care about this player. I'm pissed off at the player. He's being a prima donna. We have not yet heard from Aaron Rodgers. And I'm sure you're pointing to the fact of, listen, he wants out of Green Bay. He's demanding a trade. If he doesn't want to be a Packer, then I don't want him to be here. This is over Jake Kumaro or drafting Jordan Love, let the GM and the coaches do their thing. You just go out and be quarterback. You're paid millions of dollars just to do that. And again, I guarantee you there is some level of truth to all of that. But we don't know how Green Bay handled all of that. We don't know exactly what level of input they were allowing him to have. There was the quote out there that, from Mark Murphy that said that they didn't want Aaron to be part of the problem, which was, right when they hired Matt LaFleur and things like that. Like, and again, I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but we don't have the full picture of everything. So I know that everyone wants to immediately jump to their own conclusions. I did the same thing personally. I didn't do it out on Twitter or as somebody that covers the team or anything like that, but I immediately jumped to my own conclusions as well. Totally guilty of it. But I think it's really important to step back and, one, acknowledge that we don't have the full picture, and two, acknowledge that there's really three different scenarios at play here. So if I were general manager or handling the situation, Mark Murphy, however you want to put it, and I had to handle this situation, the first thing I would have to identify is which one of these scenarios has happened. The first, and again, I want to stress, we don't know. And I'm not insinuating that any of these are in fact the case. It's just one of these three seemingly would have to be the case. The first is that I realized that the Packers as an organization were wrong in this situation. Maybe I realized that the selection of Jordan Love was not the right player at the right time for the right reasons. Maybe I acknowledged that the communication to Aaron Rodgers in that scenario was not the right level of communication. Maybe it wasn't just simply the right way to go about it when Aaron Rodgers has said he wants to retire a Green Bay Packer and finish a Packer and work on his legacy and win more championships. Maybe that simply wasn't the right move. Maybe overall the communication hasn't been great. The Jake Kumerow situation, he just expressed that he really liked this player, thought he was an integral part of the team. Maybe cutting him 2 years later to keep a Malik Taylor didn't make a ton of sense. If keeping a guy like Jake Kumerow around over Malik Taylor makes your Hall of Fame quarterback a little bit more happy, maybe that's one of those decisions that you just tough it out and swallow, even if you liked Malik Taylor a tad bit more, right? Maybe, again, whether it's the Jordan Love thing, whether it's the lack of communication, maybe what you ultimately realize is that his requests and his gripes and the things that he was upset about were legitimately fair criticisms. And that's, again, within the realm of possibility. So that's situation number one, that I realized that the Packers were wrong and we need to fix this. Second situation, Aaron Rodgers was wrong. So as I'm looking at this, as Mark Murphy, Brian Gutekunst, Russ Ball, the entire front office, board of directors, whomever, I realize that, listen, as an organization, we feel like we handled everything the right way. We feel like we communicated the right things. Our doors were always open. Aaron, always had the ability to come and chat with us, talk to us about anything. We took his ideas under advisement. We couldn't obviously implement everything. We weren't going to pass on a Jordan Love when we didn't have another first round guy on our board. All of those things. And ultimately, Aaron took, umbrage with things that we think weren't to be taken umbrage with. He said that he doesn't want to be a Green Bay Packer. Maybe he's sown the seeds of divisiveness within the locker room. And again, I want to stress here, I'm not insinuating that these things happen. I'm just simply playing out a scenario of saying, if this is how I felt at the time, that it was actually Rodgers that was at fault, that is another potential scenario here. And then the third scenario, and probably the most likely scenario, is that there's some level of blame and fault on both sides. And this seems to be the toughest thing, whether we are talking politics, whether we are talking about Aaron Rodgers, whether we are talking about any divisive issue. It's really trying to figure out that gray area. Everything these days needs to seemingly be black and white, and it can't be anything in the middle, when 99.9% of the time, everything is a shade of gray. And my thought process here, and what I truly believe, is that there's complete shades of gray here. I am sure, and Brian Gutekunst has already acknowledged that, going back to the Jordan Love selection, that he wished that they would have communicated things better. I can guarantee you that the Packers have some level of fault here, whether it's just from a communication standpoint, whether it's how they went about some of the things with Jake Kumerow, Jordan Love, other situations. I can guarantee you that they probably have some level of blood on their hands in this situation. I can't say with the same level of certainty, but usually in these situations, it is a two-way street. And my guess is Aaron Rodgers probably shoulders some of this blame. Maybe instead of, and again, if this is true, if instead of demanding trades and things like that, maybe, he could have communicated some things better leading up to this point. Again, it's tougher to say with Aaron because we haven't heard from his side of the story. And frankly, if we're being honest, Green Bay is the one that's acting like they are doing everything in their power to get Aaron back, right? Which usually means the one that's desperate for the other person back is usually the one that made the mistake. But again, we just simply don't have all that information at this point. But in all likelihood, there's blame, some level of blame and some level of communication breakdown on both sides. And hopefully they can both acknowledge that and try to work towards a resolution. So how would I handle each of those situations? The first one, the Packers were wrong, and this was not an Aaron Rodgers issue at all. I realized that, whether it's GM, Mark Murphy, whatever, that we made the mistakes and something needs to be done about it. The first thing I do is I publicly acknowledge that. I publicly say, and whether it was in the previous press conferences or the next one that comes up, saying, we've looked at this long and hard, and the truth of the matter is we did a poor job of managing Aaron Rodgers in this situation. And I do everything in my power to make that known, that mistakes were made, and we are the ones that are bridging to Aaron Rodgers because we feel like we made the mistake. And I think an acknowledgement of that would probably go a long way with Aaron Rodgers. Not that this is a two-way street, or that there's arguments on both sides, or that there's things still being worked out. Acknowledging that we were wrong, again, in this situation, if I'm a part of the equation, that we were wrong, and we're doing everything in our power to make this right with Aaron Rodgers. Up until the point where if I were, and I really think that Brian Gutekunst overall is doing a pretty solid job. And this is not something that I would recommend doing. I don't think Brian Gutekunst needs to be fired at this point based on what we know. I'm not absolving him, and I'm not saying that if he was ultimately the driving force behind Aaron Rodgers wanting out of Green Bay, that if that comes out and if that is deemed to be true and we know that for a fact, that doesn't ultimately reflect on him and that his job will ultimately be reflected based off of that. But at this point, based on what we know, I really like what Brian Gutekunst is doing. But up until the point where if I thought as the GM that it was my mistakes that led to this situation, that Rodgers not wanting to be a Green Bay Packer, that he can't retire and try to win a Super Bowl here over the next few years, maybe I step aside for the next few years until the situation moves away. Whether it be Russ Ball and Matt LaFleur and, kind of run things. Maybe I run things, kind of more from the side, whatever. Something that I'm willing to make an example of it and say, I'm willing to step aside in this situation because we were the ones that were wrong. And again, I don't think this is the full scenario. I don't think Green Bay's fully to blame, but I would do everything in my power to make sure that Aaron knew, that the public knew that we were the ones making the mistake, and we are going to do everything monetarily to go out and get better players, to do everything that we can to win now. If that includes having to trade Jordan Love to get better players back that can surround Aaron Rodgers to make a run over the next 3 to 4 years, we do that. If that's guaranteeing that he can retire a Packer as the highest paid player in the NFL over the next 3 or 4 years, we do that. If that's mortgaging the future to try to win over those next 3 to 4 years, we do that. Because we are the ones that made the mistake, and Aaron, as a Hall of Fame quarterback that is a legend in Green Bay, deserves that level of care, respect, and attention during this time frame. That's, again, if Green Bay is the one that made the mistake. Number 2 is that Aaron Rodgers was wrong. And he's, again, sowed those seeds of divisiveness, has made it clearly apparent that he wants nothing to do with being a member of the Green Bay Packers. And everything that I go back and review with the communication with Matt LaFleur, with everyone, I've deemed that Green Bay has done everything in their power to make this a successful relationship, to build talent around Aaron Rodgers, to go to back-to-back NFC Championship games, and I ultimately feel that Aaron is at fault. In that situation, to me, there's only one thing you can do, and that's trade Aaron Rodgers. The one thing that I cannot fathom or understand at all in this situation is the idea that we'll just let him retire and pay back the $30 million. Aaron Rodgers is an asset to your organization right now as a player or as a trade chip. If he retires, it is nothing. Yes, you get $30 million paid back to you in bonuses. That doesn't equate to wins on the field. Like, you ultimately down the road get some salary cap relief from him retiring. That doesn't help you. You have no, yes, you have Jordan Love, but you have no immediate quarterback to come in and take over. I don't believe that Jordan Love is ready to be that guy yet. You don't get anything back in return from him. And you can say, well, yeah, but now some other team doesn't have him. You ship him to the AFC, the odds that you and that team match up in the Super Bowl are insanely slim, right? And unless you have to see him in a Super Bowl, the ultimate, it doesn't matter. You have to get the most that you can get back in return. And if we're really talking about 3 first-round picks and a couple top-tier players, you are out of your mind if you think that the best case scenario here is for him to just walk away and pay back $30 million. How could that possibly be better? And I know this is a divisive issue, and I've tried to play both sides on this. This is the one thing I cannot understand. How would it possibly be better if he retired? It isn't. There's no way. And frankly, as a fan of the NFL, it is not better if Aaron Rodgers retires. I want to see him go play, even if I'm rooting against him because I think he was in the wrong. I want to go see him play for another team so I can root against him. Listen, that Brett Favre interception to the Saints, that was a fantastic play if you were a Green Bay Packer fan. Love what Brett Favre did for the Green Bay Packers when he was in Green Bay. That Tracy Porter pick was a ultimate highlight if you are a Green Bay Packer fan. It just is. And there is value in that as well. So I don't get the retirement thing, but there's only one scenario. If you fully believe that Rodgers is the one here that is the issue and that he could be a potential, locker room issue moving forward and that his heart wouldn't be in being a Green Bay Packer, the retirement doesn't make sense. Trying to bring him back for a season and then whatever, that doesn't make sense. Cut your ties now, get the most back that you possibly can in return, and make the best out of a bad situation. That's all you can do at this point. So that's option 2. And then last but not least is option 3, something in the middle, working towards a reconciliation. Hopefully both sides realize that some mistakes were made. And if that's the situation, I do exactly what I think is happening right now. For the most part, probably a bunch of negotiations behind doors, trying to win Aaron Rodgers back, trying to figure out how they can mend the overall relationship on both sides so that Aaron Rodgers, and I've said this before, you can't just get Aaron Rodgers to come back. You have to get him to want to come back because there is a huge difference there. Him being here and him wanting to be here, two totally different things. And you have to fight to get him to want to be here and want to be with his teammates and want to win a Super Bowl and still retire a Packer and be okay with Matt LaFleur and be okay with management and everything like that, because we came to a reconciliation and we realized that there were mistakes made. And whether that's monetary, whether that's bringing in more talent, whatever the case may be, there's going to have to probably be some level of agreement on both sides. And ultimately, the hope is that that's what's happening and that that's what ultimately can come together. So those are the 3 different scenarios and how I would handle each of them. If Green Bay's wrong, I'm willing to do everything in my power to make up for the mistakes that were made, publicly state it, do whatever Aaron Rodgers wants monetarily, trading for players, whatever the case may be, to make that work over the next handful of seasons. If Aaron Rodgers was in the wrong and he's the one that really, started the divorce and whatever, again, I'm not insinuating that's the case, then you have to trade Aaron Rodgers. And the sooner rather than later, obviously not before June 1st, but as soon as possible to agree to that and move on and take your next steps as a franchise. And then last but not least, again, if there was something in the middle and there's still strands of hope there, which from James Jones and John Kuhn, amongst others, there seems to be some level of hope, AJ Hawk, then I think you do everything in your power to reconcile that on both sides and right this ship and get Aaron Rodgers back and going for another Super Bowl opportunity, which Green Bay should be right there in the discussion if they can figure this all out and get on the same page. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, make sure to subscribe if you have not already. If you have, thank you very much. I appreciate it greatly. I'll be right back here tomorrow. Tomorrow, I promise, is going to be my TJ Slayton breakdown. If nothing has happened crazy, that is my goal. So I'll be right back here tomorrow with that. Make sure to check out Jacob, Maggie, and Jimmy on today's audio podcast. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.